You should be the host here.
We're laughing at you.
We're both Munster people, diehard Munster people, and we want them to do well.
The Red 78 with Alan Quinlan and Niamh Briggs. Nobody knows Munster rugby better.
I'd like to think I know a lot. Hello and welcome back. I'm Alan Quinlan and you're listening to episode 37 of the Red 78 here on the Rugby channel. And with me as always is my colleague, Niamh Briggs. You had a busy weekend, Niamh. Your team were out playing as well.
Yeah, tough loss for us this weekend. Played Railway.
Are you under pressure now? Are you in danger of getting the sack at?
We've had a tough start, but we've still got a lot of girls that are coming back, a bit like Munster. It's been a little bit of a fractious pre-season for us because of the way the season has been structured this year. So we're only getting girls back even this week training because they're only starting back in college. So it's been a bit of a balancing act, but we played well at times the weekend, so that gives me good hope.
And how difficult is that? We're going to talk about pre-season in a minute, about Munster, and your team are an amateur team. Some of the girls are maybe getting contracts and stuff soon. Yeah. But how difficult is pre-season trying to organise people who are not getting paid effectively? Most of them are amateurs.
It's frustrating as hell because we didn't get the season plan till June from the RFU, and majority of those girls that are in college had booked a J1, which is completely fine because of COVID, and you can't really say it, like, as you say, they're amateur, they're students, so you just hope that they'll do a bit over there, but it's only when you get back into the preseason and the season starts so quickly this year. Usually the AIL starts in October, but now it's like a 10-week block straight from September to December. It's only when you're in it that you're like, oh, I wish they were back.
Yeah, and you can't give out to them either.
No,
really.
You can't. No.
It's just
so we're
life.
filtering
It's
back
reality.
In this week. This week and next week. And freshers are starting this week in UL as well, or next Monday. So we're going to get a few in with that as well. So it's just trying to balance it, but we don't have a huge amount of time, and that's the big thing about how the season was planned. So yeah, look, it's good. It's like we have a lot of new girls, so it's been a breath of fresh air to be involved with them so far. But we've had a tough first couple of weeks for sure. We've got to make it right this weekend. You're
going to be as busy as hell as always. But anyway, yes. We'll get on to the URC and Munster's game against the Dragons. As ever, we want the fans to be involved, and that's the whole really important part of this podcast. You can always tweet us at Rugby Channel 15 or either of us at our personal Twitters, or leave a comment on YouTube, or email us at the Rugby Channel at bowermedia.ie. And we have a few comments that you're going to talk that were emailed to us. But I put a tweet out yesterday, obviously, just asking about what were the thoughts of the performance away to Cardiff at the weekend. We spoke last week about the excitement of the new coaching team, but also about the challenge of going to Cardiff. So I think the reaction and the comments are fairly balanced. It's certainly too early to be overcritical. I think Munster themselves will look back and think there was mistakes and errors and situations that could have been better for themselves, but the reaction was fairly balanced, I think. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, look, completely. I think the big thing is that we'll speak about the game in depth in a few minutes, but I don't think we need to press the big red panic button just yet. Brian emailed, as you said, the Rugby Channel at bowermedia.ie. Any thoughts on Okeke and Campbell, who did so well last year away to Wasps? There's a lot of talk of working with young lads, but there hasn't been a sign of either of them since the Wasps match. So can I just jump in there?
Yeah, you answer that one. So they were both involved in pre-season, essentially.
Well, Patrick Campbell's on the way back from an injury that he got in June with the Irish 20s. He got a significant injury there. He's back, hopefully back training this week. Chatting to him last week. Daniel Okeke played the A game against Connacht Day last Saturday and actually went off injured in the first half. But he looks like he's packed a good bit of size again, and he looks very fit over the preseason. So they're still very young. I think we got to remember that we've got to buy time in terms of Daniel Okeke is a back rower who, we have a lot of like young, good talent that's coming through there in relation to John Hodnett and Alex Dillon, coupled with, Jack O'Donoghue, Peter O'Mahony. So it's going to be, he's going to have to do a huge amount of work, I think, to be able to squeeze into that match day squad. relation to Patrick Campbell, this guy's electric, and I think that I'd imagine we would have seen him over the preseason, maybe the start of the first game, had he not been injured. But who knows? We'll see him in a few weeks' time. But he was under 20, so he was playing with Six Nations under 20s, and he was in that kind of summer series for the under 20s in Italy. So I think that he'll be back fairly soon. Two comments on YouTube, Quinny. Patrick Keane, fairly good squad, bar front row. Need to sort that ASAP because it's seriously limited. Scannell, Archer are not international standard. Young lads behind them need to step up. And as a forwards expert, I'm just going to leave that into your hands there.
Yeah, well, look, I think all the young players have to step up and probably understand the level that's required consistently and deal with the physicality and probably deal with the tempo that you've got to play. So I think, it's going to take time. It's going to take time, like we said last week, and it's about gaining experiences for a lot of these players. And sometimes, when we see one-off performances or young players getting selected, if they don't go as well, we kind of write them off very quickly. So they need to play games and play regularly, and you can get a good measure of their development and how they're improving then.
Yeah, look, I completely agree. We'll talk about them, both Kenny Knox and Sal Noah later on. But Adam Hogan on YouTube, it's the last one from the YouTube group. Welcome back. Hope you enjoyed the summer. Big questions this year around the attack shape, though Mike Prendergast's body of work gives me hope. And the need, in my opinion, to make it as hard on themselves when they get into the 22. Connacht last season in Galway being the perfect example. They hit the line in close for extended periods, never looked to go wide even when Connacht pressed on defence. We need to get better at identifying the wider options in those situations earlier to stress defences and force individual defenders into decisions outside their defensive system. That for me starts at 10, and this is where Joey needs to start talking to his team more, telling them the pictures he's seeing the wider channel, and when it's on, demanding the ball a la Sexton and Rog before him. Other obvious one is tight head. I'm crossing my fingers that Knox delivers on his promise in particular, as we need a top-class tight head to compete. Although that kid in the academy, Dara McSweeney, might be worth a look as well. How many young fellas in Ireland are 130 kgs at 20? So lots in that, to be fair.
Yeah, there is a lot in that. And I think, just to sum it up really, of course, the accuracy and the shape, I think we saw improvements in that. I think, again, it's going to take a little bit of time. Keith Wood was off the ball last night, Rory O'Connor, they were talking about it, and they made a perfect point that this, when you're used to a different way of playing, different shape in your own body language, lines are running under the previous regime, it's going to take a little bit of time right across the board. And given that Munster probably had a lot of chopping and changing in those two pre-season friendlies, and they obviously had to because again, we'll talk about it in a minute, because there's going to be a lot of chopping and changing from round 1 to round 4. You couldn't just go out and pick two settled teams in those two pre-season games and expect that they're the ones that are going to get you through the first block of games, because for obvious reasons, the emerging Ireland, getting internationals back, different changes that have to be made, it's been quite difficult, but it'll just come with a little bit of time. And I think we certainly saw glimpses at the weekend of more better shape in attack, better lines of running. And obviously you've got to replicate that time after time to get better and become comfortable at it. So yeah, what that person is saying there is absolutely correct, but it's going to take a little bit of time. Yeah.
I love how in our tweets, our listeners are getting really in depth into our shape. Sean O'Connor, I wasn't expecting a win. Munster implementing a brand new defensive shape system in a 3-3-1 attack and shape. This will take time, and we may say results performances like this for the first few months. Players have been used to playing a certain shape for years under Van Gran and not used to a more expansive game plan what Prendy is trying to implement.
some people would say, Niamh, well, they're professional players and they should be able to implement it straight away. It's difficult. Believe me, from being a player and myself, it takes some time.
Yeah.
You need to get a cohesion and, an understanding of players around you as well. And it's difficult, when you get continuity in selection, you can do that stuff better. And plus the coaches get more time because you can't stay out in the field for 3 hours every day doing it.
No.
And so yeah, hopefully that will come. But I think I was enthused by some of the shape. It was much better. Things that happened after that shape, we will go into, i.e. breakdown and collisions and stuff like that. But the shape was much better.
And I think, for people to understand, like, it's really difficult to try and get to match intensity at training. So you don't really know how players are going to react under stressful situations until they're in matches, and then you can fix, and more often than not, you can fix quite quickly. Sean just finished in relation to the offensive breakdown, which we'll talk in a second about. Seamus Considine, lots of silly handling mistakes, seems to be continuing on from last year. Also didn't understand the kicking game. You don't win games without the ball, but we kicked a lot aimlessly, which I will talk about in relation to that kick strategy. It's a little bit different than what we were used to last year. Declan Lynch, plenty of positives to take. Early days, but scrum line out good. Mobile pack, just need to believe in attack process and the execution will come right. Super kicking, especially out of hand to touch from Ben. So completely different opinion. Dahi says, show me why I bought a supporters club membership. Again, if there's going to be something, if there's going to be a build to something, lay a foundation. Give me something to get behind. I'll be here anyway looking.
Yeah, that's tough, and it's so early. You know what I mean? Like, obviously, we just need, and we keep saying it. These players need to play together for a period of time. Just on the kicking strategy, one of the tweeters there saying aimlessly kicking the ball away. Well, we've seen for the last number of years, and this is the reality. Munster slowing down the breakdown, getting set, getting really organised. It's taken 20, 30 seconds. And then we see box kicking, a lot of box kicking, which is quite predictable. Of course, you still need, the box kick scenario as part of your game. But I think what Munster tried to do at the weekend was to kick a little bit longer.
Territory, 100%. Put pressure.
Well, even out of defence, just kick a little bit longer off 9, and particularly 9, rather than going for the box kick option, to actually kick it longer. Okay, sometimes there can be a downside where there's a back 3 there and they counter-attack and they're very dangerous. So you kind of have to, understand why you're doing it, when you're doing it, and who you're doing it against. But you need a good kick chase line. And you're hoping then that ideally that you can put pressure on them, make the tackle, maybe force a turnover or force them to kick it back. That you're not putting out into touch every time, or that you're not slowing the game down. So look, there's a balance to that. And I think, again, it's something that needs to be worked on. I think there was a lot of frustration the last number of years of Munster slowing the game down and just using box kicks, even out the field. So we'll see an improvement there.
The pace was really good. Tom Lundgren, we had an unfamiliar lineup, unfamiliar to us and to themselves, and it showed as it was sloppy and disjointed. The players in the shirt did well enough and came close, leading twice, but never strong enough away to a full Cardiff 15, 14 full internationals. My big worry now, lads, is the emerging IRFU Tour of South Africa, which will take 10 players out of Munster ranks for the next 4 weeks or so. This will be compounded by another 10 international players still missing. If they're not released by the IRFU, we can't possibly sustain that.
That's a tough one, and again, we've spoken about that point. The chopping and changing. Munster played Cardiff. They're away to Dragons this week. They've got Zebra at home, Connacht away, the Bulls at home, Leinster at home, or Leinster away. So there's 6 games there there's going to be a lot of changes, and that's just the reality of the modern game. When I played, it was probably more settled as regards, and I made that point about pre-season. Most of us played pre-season games. We were allowed to play probably some of we might have missed round 1 or 2, but there wasn't as much chopping and changing. Once we were back for a period of time.
That was when the televisions were in black and white, Quinny.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. You had big buttons and no remote controls. You had to get up off the seat to turn the TV on. But look, we don't want to over elaborate the points, and we understand people. There is a little bit of frustration there. I think people would have been frustrated with some of the mistakes. Let's move on to the game. I want your opinion. Okay, so Munster lose 2013, losing bonus point. The first question I want to ask you, would you have taken that before the game, given that Munster were going over playing a team with 14 internationals starting the game? Now that changed at the start because Owen Lane pulled out in the warm-up and Aled Summerhill came in, and he's as far as I know, he's not an international. So there was 13, 14 internationals there in the starting lineup.
I'd have absolutely taken that.
When I go through the Munster team, when I was doing my analysis, very inexperienced as regards international rugby. We have a couple of guys there with a couple of caps. Obviously, Chris Farrell, Fekitoa have played a lot of international rugby, but then the rest of the team, a couple of caps here and there, and then some guys. I was talking to a Welsh journalist over there on Saturday. He was asking me about some of the players, and a lot of them are just former Ireland under 20s. Like, they're young, they're 22, 23, 24. So yeah, you'd have taken it beforehand. I wouldn't have taken it, but
I would have taken it considering what I had seen in the first two preseason games. 100%. That I think the frustrating part is the manners. So it was things that were in our Munster's control that it wasn't that Cardiff were exceptional. I think they played well. Like, they had really good individual performances from the likes of Toby Falto, but I think Munster's handling errors and their offensive breakdown were two areas of big concern in relation to they stick, you're better at the breakdown, and I think that's a win. Do you understand what I'm saying? I don't think Cardiff win that game then, because I think two of the handling errors were Alex Kendall literally on a line break, and he's under the posts. I just think it was almost like they were trying to force it, and the harder that they tried, the more things were kind of getting upset from them in relation to handling areas. But I do think that they're too small. They're two big areas that you can control and you can fix quite quickly.
So how do you fix the handling errors? Chris Farrell, Malachi Fekitoa, they had 3 handling errors each. So that's 6 from your 2 centres.
Yeah.
And I thought, look, the two of them are brilliant players, and I thought Fekitoa showed glimpses of what he can do. Defensively, very strong, and even some of the carries, he was brilliant, great footwork. Chris Farrell, I'm a big fan of Chris Farrell. Very uncharacteristic of him. Is that a timing issue? Is it a mental issue, or does it go back to just new combination?
I think it's new combination. I think it's a new combination.
Some of the handling errors, Niamh, were very basic.
Yeah, but that's a player responsibility, Quinny. That's like you can't turn around and say is it this thing or that thing. That's just literally a concentration thing where but it's almost like I felt that first ball was dropped by Fekitoa, and then they were also he was trying very hard, Chris Farrell was trying very hard, and sometimes just the game goes away from me then all of a sudden. And you're right, we did see small glimpses. My big concern is Chris Farrell's defensive shape. Lots of turned in hips, allowed space on that outside, kind of left Liam Coombs a little bit kind of isolated for a bit. And I think that was a trend towards last season as well, is that if you can isolate Chris Farrell in a Munster backline, then you've got the ability to be able to probably play outside him. And until he gets that sorted, I think Munster are showing a sign of weakness there.
Yeah, I don't think they were. I actually thought defensively, their desire, their fitness, all that kind of stuff was really good. Of course, you're going to have some defensive issues here and there, but they scored 3 tries, Cardiff. 2 of them were from set piece, and 1 was effectively a missed tackle. So the first one.
But I just talk about the first try. So for me, that's a completed tackle. Okay, I went back, I had a look at it, I sent it to an international referee, and that to me is a completed tackle. And I was really surprised that John O'Callaghan said an RT at the time that for him wasn't a completed tackle. Both knees were on the floor and he's still in control of his ankles. Yes, he leaves go to roll away. For me, that Cardiff player had to release the ball getting up, had to release the ball getting back up. So I think Munster are done by there, but that's just my opinion.
Okay,
and
but
an opinion of an international referee. That's all I'm saying.
I think Fineen Wycherley, who's a very physical player and loves the contact, would be a bit disappointed that he didn't probably get more of an impact in there. Maybe Jean
Impact
could have helped
100%,
him
but I still
a
think
little
that
bit.
was a
Okay. Try was given,
tackle.
though. Tackle probably should have been made. The other one, I think Alex Kendellan took a heavy knock in the first half, and they run a short line again with Llewellyn, who played really well for Cardiff.
Yeah.
Max Llewellyn. I played against his father, would you believe?
This is just highlighting the black and white TV.
The great Welsh captain, Gareth Llewellyn. He was with Harlequins as well.
He was a good player, and the son was a good player, playing well the other day.
He's a very good player, really good player. And he made a great carry there, a short line off the back of the line-out. But Munster, Dennis Leamy and Munster themselves would be disappointed with that little pocket that he was allowed to run into. I think Niall Scannell was on the inside. Alex Kendellan probably, I would say definitely would have been a little bit dazed still, because he came back on the field after taking a heavy knock. He passed all his tests and then just didn't look himself. And Munster, in fairness, took him off again, which was the right thing to do. And I think that played a part in that, with him not getting off the line there. Llewellyn goes straight through, passes to Christian Dacey, and they score again. It was a disappointing one, certainly, because Munster, had taken the lead and worked their way up the field a couple of times. That one was disappointing. And obviously the try at the end off the scrum, which nearly took away their bonus point if they'd kicked the conversion. I think that was defended poorly. And again, so there's 3 tries there that I think, and another day, Munster, you're always going to have a mistake here and there, but I think they would be disappointed with that. So that's that. They were probably some negatives there, to concede 2 set piece tries, and maybe, like the Fineen Wycherley one, there's just unlike Alex Kendellan, because I think he's been a brilliant player for Munster since he's come on the scene and has a big part to play this season. And then the end, I just think Jack Crowley and Liam Coombs are a little bit flat-footed. Ray Lilo's great footwork, and he's a danger the way he shimmied a little bit, but it's a soft try. It was a little bit of a hammer blow at the end. Munster were trying to get themselves up the field to try and get an opportunity to maybe get a shot at goal and win the game. The other negative, I think, and we'll talk on the positives in a minute, for you, and I think it's pretty obvious, the breakdown situation. So for you as a coach, how do you fix that, and what went wrong with Munster? Munster?
That's just a timing issue. So they changed their attack shape, that some players will have to double job. So if the first pod carries in, they already have 2 players there. The big thing is that you can't wait until the ball carrier goes to ground in order to be able to clear out the threat. You've got to take the threat as the ball carrier goes into contact. And the way the game is now is that if you've any little bit of separation, players are just too good over the ball now. And that's the thing. So that's an easy enough fix. You just turn, in terms of the timing, in terms of focusing the mind on the threat as opposed to the ball. So you can literally just, you can clear it as they're going to ground. And then that just leaves the ball in the play for the 9. The issue, Finn, is that as the ball goes further out, it's almost a case of, if we get a half break and we manage to get an offload, and then that offload gets tackled, we don't seem to be in a position to have players high enough up the pitch and support. So that'll be a big area of focus for them this week, I'd imagine.
Was there a situation of with the attack shape that they were playing, that a lot of the time, and we saw some of the turnovers where Munster players got ahead of the ball carrier, certainly with some of the passes played out the back, that they were actually ahead of the ball player at times. And then obviously credit to Cardiff, because they were very, very aggressive and very technically astute at what they were trying to do and turning Munster over. And there was a couple of big turnovers, wasn't there, in crucial moments when Munster looked like they were gonna, they
were getting phases together.
Yeah, they were getting some phases, and there was some opportunities there, and they just, Cardiff turned it over.
the big thing for me in relation to that attack shape is that I felt like you're 100% right in terms of players being ahead of the ball at times, but it was also a case of, as they came into that 15-20 meter channel, like as they swing in, they become very flat and very little. You know, it's hard to see who's promoted in relation to being that ball carrier, and therefore, if everybody's kind of indecisive about where the ball is going, they don't really know about where the next ruck will be. So, look, they're easy fixes, though, Quinny. Like, they are easy fixes, to be fair.
Easy fixes. Not
Yeah, they are. They are.
Okay.
It's going to take time. Like, don't get me wrong.
And is that a case of
right? It's going to be January/February before Munster get to grips with the new coaching system, the new attack shape, the defensive shape, what they're looking for at set piece, the intricacies of what they're looking to do in relation to that 1-3-3-1 or whatever they're running. That's going to take a huge amount of time. And as Munster supporters, you know, we've got to afford them that time. And like, it's very frustrating to look at, you know, things written afterwards in relation to it's the same old Munster. It's not. It couldn't have been further from the truth. We literally, like, looking at Kenyon Knox playing that Ty Furlong role in relation to that out the back pass from to Ben Healy as just after Liam Coombs' break. All those things wouldn't have happened 10 months ago. So, like, I think we just got to have a bit of patience.
Okay, so the negatives
at the end of the season.
Yeah, the negative situations for Munster at the weekend were breakdown and probably handling errors, I think.
Yeah.
They're the two that kind of stand out. We believe they're fixable. They will they will be a lot better at time. Positives, quickly, we'll try and cover these off. For me, I think Munster created a lot of opportunities. They had plenty of line breaks, well, not clear-cut line breaks, but plenty of movement and defenders beating. The shape was a lot better. I thought that defence in the goal line in the first half was outstanding. And that's what builds a bit of a bond within a group as well. Cardiff kept picking and going. I thought Munster were smashing them back. They forced Cardiff into an inaccuracy, a penalty given to that, against Cardiff. I just thought that was a big moment for Munster. And I thought it gave me a little bit of a feeling that, you know, maybe they can win this game. Those kind of moments in the game are big. I thought that was brilliant, that defence in the goal line. I thought the kicking accuracy was the kicking strategy was a positive, even though some of the kicks at times I think were, you know, they looked like they didn't know what they were doing, but they did. They're kicking long to try and get a kick chase up the field. I thought that, they stayed right in the fight as well against a very good Cardiff side. Talupi Faletau was outstanding. I think he caused a lot of problems. He stands out on international level and for British and Irish Lions. I think he's a great signing for them against a very strong team. The set piece was good. And we're going to talk more about the two tight heads in a minute. Scrum and line-out were good. And I think they're the foundations that you want to try and build and have a good standard and you know this as a coach. If your scrum line-out are good and that are improving, you're always going to lose a line-out or two or get a team contesting against you, I think. But I thought that was good against a very, very strong. The two props that played for Cardiff both of them played against South Africa in the summer. So they're very good players. So I think there's a lot of positives there. I think created a lot of opportunities, that defense on the goal line, the fitness of the Munster team, which would have been something that, every team can get fitter and get sharper and all that, but I thought they stayed going. There was, I didn't see any of them slackening off and they didn't look tired. I think they could have played on for another 10 minutes at the end of the game. And they were the team trying to work their way out of that Cardiff half to try and get up the field. Were they a little bit naive in running the ball out like that? I think of that last penalty where Calvin Nash kind of gets stopped on the gain line and the resulting scrum, Cardiff scored a try. I think maybe, should you be playing that up the field and kicking it up there, trying to get a bit of territory? There wasn't much left in the game. So I think a fair few positives. I wouldn't be over alarmed because it was a very strong Cardiff side. And I think, they can learn from that when they sit down with the coaches and look at the video, but they certainly have to be better at the breakdown and with their handling errors, because I think if they didn't have all those handling errors, I think they may have won the game. What do you think?
Yeah, look, I thought I actually thought there was, without sounding patronising, I thought there was a lot of really good stuff in relation to the movement of the ball. Yeah, look, there are definitely areas we've spoken about their handling. We've spoken about the centres. They definitely have to improve. But I like the fact that back three were very hungry for work. I like the fact they worked open quite a lot off their wings. I like the fact that Shane Daly got on the ball a lot. I actually think he's a really good player. I'd like to see more of him. And I really liked what Jack Crowley brought to the party. And once he came on, I thought he moved the ball really well and he moved players around. He's got a ridiculously good little step. And so, yeah, look, there were positives. They will be annoyed at themselves this week because I feel like they could have controlled a lot more of those mistakes and those issues. But we just got to see them improving now, Quinny, this week, and that's the most important thing.
Okay, just before we move on to look at the Dragons game, I think we've highlighted the issues. I think we've given them credit for staying in the fight, certainly against a very strong Cardiff side. Something we're going to do this year is and I said it last week, was the star of the week. It's difficult to pick the star of the week when you lose a game, and even though some of the performances, I think I know major standouts. There wasn't a big debate here as regards to standouts. I thought Paddy Patterson played well. Jack O'Sullivan had a really good performance. Jack O'Donoghue was good. But for me, I think the star of the week is kind of a joint award this week. And really, it's an area that we've spoken about and lots of people are concerned about, is the front row. So I thought Keenan Knox and Roman Salanoa, that was a really, really big positive. So I'm not sure if you agree with me, but I'm going to give them a joint award of stars of the week, given the fact that they were up against Rhys Carey, and he's an international prop, a very, very, very strong prop. And I just thought that their body shape, their carries, their tackles, play around the field was really good. Keenan Knox had a really good game. And then I thought when Roman Salanoa came on, he smashed 2 or 3 Cardiff fellas, made some really good carries, and his scrum was perfect as well. So it's a kind of a joint award this week that we're going to give it to Keenan Knox and Roman Salanoa.
Yeah, and obviously this was an area of concern that a lot of the supporters had highlighted throughout the end of the season. And
I think we should say, Niamh, it's very early days and we're not getting excited. I'm not getting excited here going, these guys are going to go on and dominate
you look very excited
at European level. But it's a positive against an international front row. You know what I mean? Christian
You've been very positive today, Quinny. Are you feeling all right?
I'm trying to cheer myself up as well.
I think you're right. I think we've spoken about this, and you've spoken at length over the last year in relation to the front row and those kind of weaknesses in those areas. And the game is moving on now. You need to have the ability to have ball in hand. You need to be explosive. You need to be able to be brilliant at scrum. You need to be able to be brilliant at line out. And it's a tough ask now for front row players to be incredibly successful at the top of the game, because you have to be, it's almost like you're multifaceted. You have to be brilliant at everything. And I think you're 100% right. I think in both Keenan Knox and Roman Salanoa, we saw glimpses of something that's really good. The fact that Keenan Knox seems to have a really good pair of hands in terms of his ability to play those little tip passes. That's going to be huge because he's a big guy for somebody so young, and he's going to draw in the defenders like Tariq Furlong does. If you've got the ability to be able to move the ball even a metre away from your body, then you're creating little gaps for other people. So Noah's now going with the emerging tour, so that's going to be a pity for him, because you'd imagine that he would have seen a little bit more game time over the next couple of weeks.
Yeah, and in a sense, there was a little.
But he's been on really good coaching and high level games in terms of high level training over in South Africa, hopefully. So
yeah,
maybe he learns there.
Yeah, I think he needs to keep going now, and both of them do. I think they need to be more physical. I think, as I said, the set piece was good. It's very early days. They're going to get sterner tests, and to get up to that level.
Salanoa's injury profile worries me a small bit.
Yeah.
But if he can get a run of games, hopefully we can see the best out of him.
Yeah, we should mention, so well done to both of them. It was a good start for them. There's 10 players away. Before we get on to the Dragons, Jack Crowley, Shane Daly, Anton Frisch, Calvin Nash, Thomas Ahern, Dermot Byrne, John Hodnett, Alex Kendall, and Roman Salano and Josh Witchery are going to be unavailable this week. Munster actually just put it up on their Twitter page there that it's confirmed they're all unavailable. I think they meet up on Friday and they travel on Sunday. Munster have kind of bit of work to do to get into their depth chart of getting a team together for another tricky away game against the Dragons on Sunday, who were beaten 44-6 by Edinburgh at the weekend. And their director of rugby, Dean Ryan, he came out with pretty scathing comments after the game. So Edinburgh beat them 44-6. This will be easy for Munster, will it? no chance. No chance.
There'll have to be a reaction. That was a really, really poor performance from the Dragons.
Yeah, I did see, Niamh. I did watch the game back, and I think, in fairness, Edinburgh are an incredibly dangerous team. They showed last year in patches how dangerous they are with the ball and how effective they can be when they get their internationals around them. And they have a lot of good players, I think. And Mike Blair's done a great job. But I think some of the tries were freakish as well, that they scored bounces of the balls and just mistakes. So what I'm saying is this will be a totally different scenario on Sunday for Munster. I've been to Rodney Parade when I played, as you say, when televisions were black and white. But it's a very, very tough place to go. And I think you have to be physically ready. Munster should be expecting to go there and win, and having their goal should be to go there and win the game. There's going to be an angry reaction when you have a director of rugby and a head coach basically calling out the players' desire, work rate, commitment to the jersey. There's definitely going to be an angry reaction from the Dragons this week, I think.
Yeah, look, I was pretty shocked at his interview after the game. First game in, and he's clearly seen something over pre-season that he's not been happy with, and it's obviously festered maybe into the first game. He has to see a reaction this weekend. Like, they've signed a lot of new players. JJ Hanrahan is playing for them, that a lot of Munster fans will know. And they've this new pitch and new, they put a lot of work in behind the scenes. I would just, they're going to have to see a reaction. I still think, irrelevant of those 10 players going away with the Virgin Ireland, hopefully we'll see some senior players back in. I still think Munster should win this game, and they should be targeting that, and I would be disappointed if they didn't. Is
there a chance that any of the internationals may be available this week? When you look at Kieran Frawley being available for Leinster, Stuart McCluskey, the Connacht players are going to be their internationals. So should Munster have a case to get one or two of the players or a couple 100%. Of players back?
Yeah, hopefully.
We don't know what the situation is there, but I would think that that's something that they should be pushing for anyway, to get some of the players who didn't start the tests maybe back and bolster.
I'd imagine a conversation, would have shifted straight away once they realised that the emerging tour was coming in. Okay, look, if we're going to give you 10 players, then we have to have some sort of return in, so we need to be able to bring in some of those guys. And look, hopefully that will be the case. It's important, I think, that these guys get back in and get playing. And I met Craig Casey last week, and he's hopping off the ground to get back in there. So I'd imagine we'll see some of those names coming back in. And but even at that, I think Munster should have enough for this Dragons, albeit we should see a reaction. We have to see a reaction from Munster too, Quinny. We have to see those mistakes being cut. We have to see the breakdown being a little bit more efficient. We have to see that continuation of a good set piece. All of that has to continue on. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, because it's not as if Munster are going there on the back of a win and in great form. I think they'd have been very, very disappointed and upset and frustrated themselves internally. So hopefully they will bring a reaction themselves. But certainly just because Edinburgh beat the Dragons 44-6 doesn't mean that Munster are going to go there. And I think they're going to have to work incredibly hard. You saw what the Dragons did to Leinster last year in round 2, I think. Leinster barely won that game. So they're going to make it really difficult for Munster. And, Munster are a big scalp for them if they can get back on track. Well, the crowd it'll be cheering them on there. It's a fairly kind of raucous, noisy place, and that's what they'll be trying to do on Sunday. So anyway, it's too early in the week for us. We don't know what kind of a team that are playing. Again, we reiterate the point. There's 10 of these players away with Ireland. We don't know what the situation is with the internationals and who's coming back. Simon Zebo was ill last week, so he will be back available. I think Stephen Archer might be back as well. So they'll certainly be a boost. So that's it. We've got to leave it there. That's episode 37 of the Red 78 wrapped up. To make sure you get your podcast straight to your phone every week, just search for the Red 78 and press subscribe. And don't forget to get in touch with your thoughts on all things Munster throughout the week. If you want, you can get your thoughts in before the match or after the game. I'll be sending a tweet out next week as well. So you can tweet us at Rugby Channel 15, or else tweet Niamh and myself at our own Twitter handles. Or you can leave a comment on YouTube or send an email. That's another option now as well. We can get emails as well. It's great. So that's it for this week. Hopefully we'll be talking about a performance next week and a win, because I think it's a really, you end up, it's a difficult start for Munster being away for the first two. And I think you don't get some wins in these early rounds and you're starting to run out of matches, because there's going to be a lot of tough games throughout the season. And this is certainly a game that Munster, I think it's a must-win game for them on Sunday. Yeah. Okay, thanks, Niamh. Chat to you next week.
Thanks, Quinny.
The Munster Rugby Podcast, Red 78 with Alan Quinlan and Niamh Briggs. Nobody knows Munster Rugby better.